Cambridge Typewriter. Nope, you can't get it tuned up now. We're definitely closing March 31st. We stopped taking in new repairs about 7 weeks ago because we're overrun with repairs and I wouldn't have time to do anything. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye. I've been, doing this for 45 years here. And it's a very bittersweet, decision to, close the shop. But it's just something that I feel it's time, and it's like the next thing for me, move on to the next, phase of my life. But typewriters are still going to have a place in it, just not on like a retail level. And since we announced almost 3 weeks ago that I was retiring, closing the shop, and we made it official. And the first 2 weeks after that, we had crowds in here every single day. Everyone was like running in here to buy a machine before I closed. And I wasn't expecting that. That kind of took me by surprise. Well, we've been busy for like the last 15 or 20 years. We got even busier when the pandemic hit. We went through the roof busy. People who always had an urge to write figured that now's the time, and a lot of people that want to write want to do it on a typewriter. What younger people are discovering also is that typing on an old manual typewriter uses all your senses, something you don't get, with a digital device, and I like that a typewriter only does one thing. You can't multitask on it, which is something I like, and that's a big hook for the younger people. Their number one reason why they like it is I can type with no distractions. New thing for them. For older people, that's just what we grew up knowing. And I have a lot of like writer customers too, and and they're into their typewriters, and they write all their books on their typewriters, and they tell their readership, the same thing that they tell me every time they see me, which I already know, is that your thought process just meshes with the speed of a typewriter, and they just go hand in hand. I just love everything about it, the feel, the sound, and part of it has to do with I have an aversion to using computers. I just get frustrated. For me, it's so hard to do something on them. But a typewriter, I just roll on paper and just hit the keys, and nothing to figure out except what you're saying. Fire engine red. It's an Olympia SG3. Musical notes and musical symbols and connotations. And what you do is you roll in blank sheet music and you compose directly onto the paper. It's a Continental from 1934, and it looks like it was never ever used. And the cool thing about Hebrew typewriters, they type the opposite way, and when you get to the end, instead of throwing it this way, you have to pull it the opposite way, which is really kind of cool. I probably have maybe about 15 machines at home. I have like a favorite top 5, and any one of those top 5 could be my number 1 at any time. And it's basically old Coronas, from the 20s, the Olivetti 22 from Italy, 1950s, the Olympia SM3, mid-50s from Germany, Smith Corona's Silent Super, also 50s, made in Cortland, New York, and the Remington Portable number 2, which is from the mid to late 20s. Most of my writing is basically just writing back to people, because I get letters from people all over the country, and most of the time I write back. I got a pile like this, literally, a pile like this. I've had my share of famous writers, and one of my favorite guys is he passed a few years ago, but David McCullough was he was one of those guys he couldn't wait to tell everybody how fabulous it is to type on a typewriter, You know, he gave speeches like all over the country, in the world actually, and in the middle of his speeches, he'd stop and talk about his typewriter. In the beginning, it wasn't about typewriters at all. You know, I just happened to fall into it and fell in love with it right from my very first day here. Originally, it was the hook was taking a broken machine and fixing it. And that's something that I've always liked doing ever since I was like a little kid. You know, I was a tinkerer growing up. I just love fixing things and knowing how things work. And there was just something about typewriters, just, you know, the mechanical design, the thought process that goes into repairing it, and the satisfaction of, finding a problem, fixing it, giving it back to the owner who's thrilled to death to be getting it back. This is what I'm working on for a customer. This is a big boy, an SG1, made by Olympia, and it comes from West Germany, and has like a little hood, and it's got like this carriage mechanism that comes apart and sits in the back here. Oh, I just noticed it's got mechanics like to write, you know, in certain spots, dates of service. And here it's like April 13th, 72. Oh, January 23rd, 1962, 66, 67. It's probably in for, you know, cleanings and certain repairs. That's kind of, you know, a little bit of the history of the machine is kind of cool. This is like part of my hand, this tool, a spring hook. And I'm always using it to, like, you know, push and pull certain parts, get at certain parts. Most of the time I'm using it for detailing because there's so many nooks and crannies in here. But if I'm cleaning it, I get a little rag with some cleaner on it. It helps me get in the creases and the nooks and crannies for like detailing. Like if I was detailing like the dashboard of my car, I would have a tool like this too. And the other tool is a nice Sears Craftsman small screwdriver. And these are the two main tools that I use all day long. Probably 75% of all my repair work is just done with these two things. And what else? Cleaning stuff. Oh, solvents. Yeah. We have typewriter oil, and then we have this stuff here. It's blue. We call it Blue Creeper. And this dissolves like rust. So you get like a rusty screw. If you just try and take it off untreated, you're going to strip the head, and then that's it. You're out of luck. It's stuck. You'll never get it off. Sewing machine oil is typewriter oil, and that's what we do to oil all the parts. We don't use it on everything anymore. The rule is the less oil the better. You know, some people believe you shouldn't put any oil in machines. I don't believe that. There are some spots where you absolutely need oil, but just a little bit. Just a trace amount. And the parts that move all the time, you really should have just a little dab on there. Very good. That's actually going into a school, a middle school. Yeah, for his students. He's going to put it in the back of the class. His students can take turns going over and using it. Oh yeah, this is really nasty. It's too rusted out. It's never going to work. This is almost in the same shape. You can see all the rust down in the middle there. The springs are actually rusted through and broken most of the way across. even under normal circumstances, this is a tough repair, but nope. Same boat as the other machine. Travel right now. Okay. Actually, I had a bunch of those, and they sold. Like, there's a few in this pile here that people liked it. It's just got that nice '50s look to it. And I like the keyboard too. The keycaps are just the right size, so that your fingertips fit on. They're really nice. I think it's a great little type. This needs a good scrubbing. Okay. And I take it all apart, clean it inside and out, make it as new-like as I can. I even take the rollers out and I sand them down nice and smooth again, and new ribbon and tune it up, make sure the print quality is good. And it's like a couple hours worth of work, but that's what I have to do to get these back in good shape. That way I'm giving you a machine that's like new again. You're not going to have any issues for years.